Welcome, folks. Muslims killing Christians, Muslims killing Muslims, Muslims are killing each other. It looks like ISIS has struck again, this time in the airport in Istanbul, Turkey, in a triple suicide attack that killed at least 41 people and injured an astounding 230 others.
It was the latest terrorist attack against Turkey, a country ISIS has repeatedly threatened. Chris Mitchell brings us the story from Jerusalem.
Closed-circuit television captured the attack in progress. This stunning video shows one of the terrorists being shot by an airport policeman. Seconds later, the terrorist blew himself up. At least 3 suicide bombers struck the international terminal at the Istanbul airport, the 3rd busiest in Europe. Panicked travelers huddled in stores for protection, while others ran for their lives.
People were shooting on one side, and we all ran the other way. And then the bombs went off, and people started running the other way, and there's more shooting. And we came out, and after that, I think there was another bomb.
Turkey's prime minister blamed ISIS for the terror attack. Some Israeli experts believe that the more ground ISIS loses inside Syria and Iraq, the more dangerous it becomes in other parts of the world.
The bad news, so to speak, is that as ISIS contracts physically in terms of its territorial holdings on the ground, what we're likely to see, I think, unfortunately, is an increasing use of international terrorism by ISIS. If we look at the increasing number, the increasing list of international terrorist actions taken by ISIS in the course of the last year, France, in Brussels, and so on and so forth, then I think we're already, that's the pattern of events to come, I think.
Striking an airport multiplies the impact of a terror attack by disrupting travel plans for tens of thousands.
Our family tells us that so many shops and restaurants and hotels are shutting down, and we wanted to go support them, but I mean, I'm not going to bring my small child into a terrorist, zone.
It makes me very nervous, very nervous. Right now I'm not sure if I want to travel today.
Right now they're trying to redirect us. We're trying to get another flight to go somewhere else because we feel unsafe to send the kids out there. So, we don't want them to go to Istanbul at all.
The attack itself came during the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan and on the 2nd anniversary since ISIS declared its caliphate. A top Israeli counterterrorism expert told CBN News ISIS has a huge capacity for terrorism. He noted Turkey also has a large border with the Islamic State and is now saturated with terror cells. He expects Turkey to hit ISIS back. Before the attack, the U.S. State Department issued a travel warning and advised Americans that terror groups may target aviation services. The scenes in the Istanbul airport look eerily similar to the scenes at the Brussels airport just 3 months ago. One more example in the growing list of global terror attacks in the war being carried out by radical Islamic terrorism. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
At this point, you wonder what their game plan is. I mean, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to get the caliphate? That's what ISIS means, Islamic State of the Levant. But who's going to set up a state with a bunch of guys that want to blow themselves up? I mean, it makes no sense at all. And so I think they've lost control of the narrative. They don't quite know what they're doing. And speaking of the control of the narrative, by the way, the Quinnipiac poll, which seems to be pretty reliable, has Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in a virtual dead heat for the first time. Clinton is ahead by about 2 points, but that's within the margin of error. And Trump made a big play yesterday for the white working class people. He was out in Pennsylvania at an aluminum plant and launched his attack on globalism. I, for one, feel that trade is beneficial for us. And I look back to the Smoot-Hawley tariff bill back at the time of the Great Depression. And it was one of the things that exacerbated a financial collapse when everybody began to build tariff walls against everybody else. And I don't want to see that happen. So I am more for free trade, and yet at the same time, the working people in this country, in the steel mills and the coal mines and so forth, think that the NAFTA and global trade in general has been siphoning off jobs and causing them to lose their livelihoods. So Trump is hitting a note that apparently is going to resonate through the entire election. Well, back here at home, the House Benghazi Committee's final report criticizes the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton for failures in the terrorist attack. Most of those failures that they pointed out seem to be the idea of political correctness or not wanting to offend the sensibility of Muslims. John Jessup has that story.
Thanks, Pat. Then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton publicly claimed the attack in 2012 was sparked by an anti-Muslim video. But in private, she said something completely different. And the report says the administration moved too slowly to rescue the trapped Americans.
At the center of the report, 4 brave Americans killed while serving their country abroad. This despite the fact that the new Republican congressional report says top State Department officials should have known the diplomatic consulate in Benghazi was unsafe.
It has been said that nothing could have reached Benghazi before the lethal mortar attacks. Nothing could have reached Benghazi because nothing was ever headed to Benghazi.
House Republicans say the 2-year investigation proves the U.S. failed to protect American lives and, in the immediate wake, tried to cover it up.
I believe that the government failed its people and lied to the public in the aftermath.
Initially, the Obama administration pinned the attack on an anti-Muslim video, something refuted by the 800-page report, which also includes 80 never-before-seen witness accounts and 75,000 pages of new documents.
The report says a rusty bureaucratic process delayed an appropriate response and shows one anti-terrorism security team changed in and out of their uniforms 4 times while waiting 3 hours in Spain. Ultimately, key military forces took far too long to deploy.
If we are going to ask Americans to put themselves at risk in the future, we've got to remedy this.
Democrats panned the $7 million report, the 8th of its kind, arguing there's nothing new and that it was designed to hurt Hillary Clinton's White House prospects. At a campaign stop in Denver, the former Secretary of State said it's time to move on. The report is dedicated to the memory of the 4 men who lost their lives. Yet, with its release in the middle of a heated general election cycle, both Republicans and Democrats are accusing the other of partisan motives, leaving the chairman of the committee with a plea for everyone interested in knowing more about what happened leading up to, during, and after the attack.
So I will respectfully ask my citizens to simply do this. Read the report.
John Jessup, CBN News, Washington.
Well, revival is breaking out in parts of the country. One place where many people are becoming Christians is Burlington, North Carolina, where for several weeks it's been the site of a huge tent revival. Mark Martin brings us that story.
In a state facing attack, God is on the move. The epicenter is Burlington, North Carolina, where growing crowds now meet under this tent. The tent director of the Burlington Revival says they're averaging around 2,500 to 3,000 people each night. Earlier this month, they held a youth night, and more than 5,000 people showed up. Now entering its 8th week, the revival began on Mother's Day at New Hope Baptist Church. The church began a 1-week revival, and as it neared the end, Pastor Randy Hobbs and evangelist C.T. Townsend sensed that God wanted to do more.
Brother Randy got up and said, "I don't believe God's done." And I said, "I don't either."
It's just amazing to be a part of this. This is something we've been praying for in our church for several years. We've been meeting over 15 years, praying for revival to touch us locally and nationally. And now we're seeing what we've been praying about. And to see how that God has just orchestrated this and how that God has brought it together.
The revival outgrew this sanctuary and eventually moved to this tent. Local businessman Don Cox allowed the tent to be put up on his property.
It's been absolutely amazing. The last time I remember anything remotely similar to this happening was in August of 1951 when I went to a tent meeting in Greensboro and a young evangelist by the name of Billy Graham was speaking.
In my wildest imaginations, I would have never thought that God would have done what He's done. You know, and it's just, every night I lay my head on my pillow and just stand amazed at what God's doing.
People from around the country are attending, and Townsend says more than 400 people have accepted Jesus Christ, including businessman D.R. Harrison.
I haven't been in church in over 11 years until 5.5 weeks ago. And every Sunday and Wednesday, my daughter would go down to the altar and pray for Daddy and Mama to get saved. God answered that little girl's prayer. I believe it with all my heart.
Ashley Cottle saw her 6-year-old daughter accept Christ during a service.
We talked about it a little bit, and I said, do you think that Jesus is talking to you about something? And she said, I want to be saved. I'm grateful and I'm thankful that my children get to see this, because I think that they'll know, they'll always know that God is real.
A God who's real and a God who saves. Mark Martin, CBN News, Burlington, North Carolina.
Pat, Mark's story shows the revival is touching the hearts of young and old alike.
Well, we just had one from Wendy about over there in West Virginia, and the tremendous Mingo County, I believe it was.
You got it. That's right.
Yeah, Mingo. So
that went on for 8 weeks, and now this one spread into North Carolina.
People are so hungry; they want more of God, and it's worldwide. It's not just here, but that's just a little trickle, you know. Raindrops upon us are falling, but we're pleading for the showers. You know, the showers of blessing.
Amen. Amen. Sounds good.